Losers in Space by John Barnes. Dedication. For Diane Talbot, because I've got some catching up to do, and because with her around, I want to do it. Notes for the interested. Please skip this and every other note for the interested if you're not interested. Most science fiction fans nowadays come to San Francisco. Oh, my bad. Most science fiction fans nowadays come to sci-fi from gaming, movies, television, and other media. Rather than reading, if you haven't seen much written science fiction, you might not be familiar with hard science fiction, hard SF. Hard SF is science fiction where the science is as true and as correct as the writer can make it in the light of the current science. George Sithers, a great editor and one of the first ones I worked with, used to say it was a hard science fiction if when Superman leaped a tall building at a single bound, he kicked a hole in the sidewalk. Media science fiction is rarely hard science fiction. Film, television, games, and comics have always favored stories like Firefly, Doom, and Star Trek, where science is mostly invented by the screenwriters, and Star Wars, Doctor Who, and Spider-Man, where the science is really old-fashioned magic, just given scientific-sounding names. Hard SF is found mostly in literature. It's an elite club where the elite geek insist that writers respect facts such as explosions are silent in the vacuum of space. There are fewer than 120 chemical elements, and their properties are known. No one discovers new anti-gravity metals. Force fields refer to gravity or magnetism, not magical glass shields. An invisible man would be blind because his invisible corneas could not focus and his invisible retinas wouldn't receive it. A human being is more closely related to a clam than to any being from another planet, and it would be less likely to have children with an extraterrestrial than to pollinate a rosebush. The physics of spaceflight requires so much energy to lift even a small object off of Earth that a spaceship has to be a thin shell connected to a mountain of explosives. Hard SF fans like accuracy. They like to learn things, and they like to know what's real and what isn't. So written hard sci-fi uses one form or another of what we called info dumps. Lectures about the science, the imaginary world, and so on, either directly or by having characters explain things to each other. How many characters does it take to change a light bulb in a hard SF story? One to do it, and one to say, as you know, Bob, a light bulb consists of a tungsten filament in an inert gas-filled glass enclosure. People who geek on just knowing stuff, either about the real science or the fictional future, love infodumps. But infodumps are boring obstacles for readers who just want to get on with the story. I'm trying out a compromise. Information that could go into infodumps is in short sections called Notes for Interested in the main text. I'll explain only as much as a reader needs to follow the story. If it's just more cool science upon which you may wish to geek, I'll package it in a note for the interested. You can read the whole book and follow the story without reading a single note for the interested if you're not interested. On the other hand, if you are interested, they're very easy to find. From Earth to Beyond the Moon, March 13th through April 23rd, 2029. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. March 13th, 2029. Baker Lounge, Excellent Shop, District of Oregon/Idaho, Earth. This collection of losers and misfits will now come to order for report from your activities chairman. We look at the stairs and see Durlock's descending feet. Or in other words, shut up all you moes, I got the stuff. What stuff? Barry's voice aches with hope. The stuff will be some new drug. She effing it. My shortly to-be ex-boyfriend hasn't even noticed how hard I've been ignoring him, but mentioned drugs and he's awake. What stuff? The stuff we are about to discuss. White whines. Do we have to discuss anything? Can we just relax for once? Durlock looks around Baker Lounge at the bodies draped over the crappy, gaudy, squishy 100-year-old 2020 style furnitures. Just the usual Baker Lounge evening crowd. known to ourselves as the Moes. My gaze follows his. He's the only one in the room, I think, who is seeing people the way they really are. It's like his eyes are the mirror of truth. They are also generous, or they are also gorgeous, and I would enjoy drowning in them. We're in two bunches and two singletons. The first bunch has most of the girls and my ex to be Barry, who looks like a used to be handsome version of his famous mother. He's so blasted on all the drugs he takes that he doesn't even notice that he's sitting next to Fleeta, who is painfully gorgeous. Her parents had her engineered for a perfect for media body and hair, eyes and skin color that were perfectly palette balanced. They also bought her a genius level IQ, but that didn't last. She took happy stuff 2 years ago, and nobody caught her in time, so now she's joyful and stupid. Barry likes morose smart girls, so I don't worry about her approaching him, even though she's still ultra beautiful and sitting very close to him. Fleeta used to be my best friend. I guess she still thinks I'm hers, with whatever she has left to think with. I just feel weird around her since she transformed herself from the friend who I most wanted to be into the friend who most resembles a golden retriever. The rest of the clump, who have all been chattering about celeb news and flipping around on screen to see which meads are trending, is a pair of friends I usually think of as a dissatisfied duo. Emerald's mom just barely qualified to get her into this place, and she doesn't fit in. She's awkward at parties, loud, sulky, whiny, and opinionated, but she could get away with that if she didn't look like a fire hydrant wearing a frog mask. She was born for before her mother's big break, so she didn't get engineered, and she's a spineless coward about the surgery she needs to lengthen her thick legs, round off her wide flat ass, and add definition to her squidgy face. All the expensive smart comb and Cosmo wanting styling in the world just can't help her. Can't help. Her best friend, Waichi, sits beside her. She's got 10 times the look and 20 times the attitude. Deep brown hair and bright green eyes and strawberry blonde hair. Very like mine, that look was ultra fashionable the year we were born. And she could probably draw some camera time and gossip, but puts her life into outlining Emerald. I know Durlock, and I think the same thing about the girl clump of Moes. Nobody we need to take into account, ever. The boy clump would be even more Mo and even more no account if that were possible. King is Barry's drug buddy, another engineered guy with all the genes to be gorgeous and all the habits to be haggard, only interested in what he can put in his bloodstream. At least he hasn't done happy stuff though. I think looking away from Fleeta. FB should have been gorgeous with the look of an actor or model who gets cast at the short but tough side kick. He has nice muscles, a cute slightly crooked nose, and perfectly black curls. His dad engineered him super sexy retro Latin, except he's so out of it socially that his security blanket wouldn't want to be seen with him, and he could be outwitted by a young brick. He has the obsession with astronomy and has memorized reams and reams of names of asteroids and stars, astronomers who discover things, all kinds of shiafnet. But I can't. But I can tell he doesn't understand much of it. Whenever he's nervous, he'll start spouting all these astronomical non sequiturs, and even though it makes no sense, he tells everyone he wants to be a famous astronomer. Nowadays, that's like being a famous stamp collector or a famous knitter. All the astronomers are minis who just do it for fun. Nobody seems to be able to reason with him about it. If you bring it up, he just lays the memorized facts on thicker. Stack is gorgeous. Muscle like a Renaissance statue, classic East Afro features. They were Those were ultra out of fashion when he was born, but a tradition in his family, which includes more pro athletes than most people have relatives. But Stack is a waste of all those jock genes. He's been cut from every team because he won't practice or do what the coach asks, so he's never competed in anything. The athletes won't let him hang out with them because they hate constant critiques from a guy who never plays. His major physical skill is bullying. The fourth guy is Glisters, Stack's favorite victim. Glisters is a pulpy, white-skinned, stringy hair throwback Caucasian. I throw him back anyway if anyone knew what sewer he was caught in, with a giant head and a scrawny little body. He's really brainy and all that shiftnet, and he uses all those brains to splecter porn meads into tiny little segments and resemble them into porn that goes by too fast for anyone to follow. I would regard him as the creepiest person here at the school, except he seems to have a huge crush on me. So I regard him as the creepiest person in the solar system. Glisters, FB, Stack, and King are gathered around four-handed chess, like little boys playing with their little gamey game. I don't know why they play when the outcome is guaranteed. King is too drugged to follow the game, will be eliminated, quickly followed by FB, who is stupid. Then Stack will fix that I'm gonna kill you glare on Glisters, who will let Stack win out of pure terror. Besides, Glisters isn't thinking about the game nearly as much as he's staring at me. Yuck, by the way. Then there are two of us sitting by ourselves. Miroshki is sitting cross-legged, hand resting on her knees, palms up, styling mysterious, profound mystic, not convincingly. She's fat, even though you can cure that with a shot, and pretentious because apparently you can't cure that even with constant mockery. Her room is the ultra weird jungle of mats on the floor and plants in pots. Every so often, she starts crying and says everyone is hurting her feelings and goes into her room for a few days. Maybe we'll be lucky and she'll get her feelings hurt soon by someone. Maybe me. I've been sitting by myself, rebrushing my face with a Cosmo wand and my hair with the smart comb, getting perfect, waiting for Durla. Not that he's here, he's the only thing that is. He eclipsed Baker Lounge and the school and the whole planet, and when he arrives for me, the others, Moe's, in Baker Lounge just cease to exist. Notes for the interested number one. Moe's, an extremely common nickname for the loser clique at the most expensive school. In 2057, the global economy, environment, and society were in a complete, irrecoverable collapse. Even though with fully robotic production, the entire global population would have lived like the millionaires of a few generations before. No physical reason existed for the fighting, starvation, and random destruction, and shortages of every necessity all over the planet, and yet the misery had persisted for more than a decade. The United Nations, pushed to the brink by the rich man's famine in 2056, decreed permanent peace and prosperity, commonly known as the Perma-Pax Parity, in which everyone on the planet would receive a social minimum for which they could do no work, and robots would produce nearly all goods and provide nearly all services. From then on, humans would only do labor in which human beings were irreplaceable and had to be paid to do it. The short list of these occupations include high-level works in the art and competitive athletics, human relations intensive fields like nursing and teaching, roles that people wanted to watch, such as being a celebrity. One job that only humans could do still had to be restricted because too many people wanted to do it, making babies. Every baby registered for the social minimum is given a lifetime sterilizing implant, which can be switched on and off. Switch-off permission is granted for 3 children per registered pair of people, or two per single. 70 years later, at the time of the story, it has turned out that with the slightest extra effort required to have a child, the application process for a switch-off takes about a month on the calendar and about 10 hours of interviews and filling out forms, and is good for only 3 months. Has caused the birth rate to fall far below replacement. For 3 generations, the population has rapidly dwindled and the average age increased. By the time of the story, the world population is about 3 billion, less than half its 2010 level, and only about 7% of it is children and teenagers. In 2010, the percentage was 19%. It's a world of very comfortable middle-aged and older people who mostly watch entertainment all day. Permapax Parity decrees that more than 90% of the global populations are minees, people who live on the social minimum, and income roughly comparable to $2 million a year in 2010 dollars. Some minees practice very elaborate hobbies that occupy nearly all their time. Almost all scientists, scholars, and artists are minees. Regardless of how they spend their time, they are not permitted to earn more than the social minimum. Most minees, however, just consume entertainment for their entire lives. For the few years spent raising 1 or 2 children, about 3/4 of minees elect at one time or another to switch their sterilization off and have a child. Though most minees have one, almost no one has more. Just over 3% of the population have the EE prefix, standing for eligible for employment on their social minimum number. Over time, EENIes became ENIes, and finally just ENIes. ENIes are celebrities whose image can be sold, celeb ENIes, or people who perform their jobs that only people can do, talent ENIes, and earn income about 100 times as large as the Minies earn. Free training to qualify as a talent ENI is restricted to the very small part of the population that achieves a very high score on the POT evals, potential evaluation examinations. Because only a small part of the population actually needs training beyond basic literacy, the college and universities are gone. Just as, since there's almost no war, there are no real armies, just police forces for suppressing riots and terrorism. Many minds are highly educated, but they teach themselves the things that they want to know, using the net or finding mentors, learning it whenever they care to during their adult lives. And since there's no need to prove they learned it, there are no exams, degrees, or diplomas, except again for the specialist among all the talented ENIs. Less than 1% of the global population are meanies, violent chronic offenders, uncontrollable sociopaths, and various other people who must be locked up for public safety. It is stated sacred principle of permapax parity that everyone should have the same chance to qualify as an ENI. Children of ENIs who do not qualify in their own right because Minies at 21 and cannot or become Minies at 21 and cannot inherit the money or property from their parents. As a practical matter, however, this law is enforceable only on the talent ENIs. Celebrity babies, children, and families are popular in the news, and so celeb ENIs are very often able to make their children famous before the age of 21. Thus, elite schools such as Excellent Shop are in the business of helping ENI children qualify for permanent adult ENI status. For the children with unusual talent and ability, the kind who would be at the very top of a gifted and talented program in 2010, this means preparing for the potty vows, because a passing score on the potty vows is required for admission to the accredited professional training in an EE class, paid occupation. For the children of celebrities, this means pretending to study for the potty vows while actually networking and trying to draw media attention. In every elite school, some kids just give up. They know their talent is insufficient, they don't want to work, their appearance is out of fashion, maybe they just have no confidence. Although in a few years, they will stop living on their parents' ENI level salary and have to live as Minies. They stop making the effort to become ENIs. Since they are not incurably criminally insane, they won't become meanies either. At every elite school all over Earth, the Moon, and Mars, these permanently defeated children make the same bitter jokes since they are not yet ENIs, meanies, or minies. They call themselves Moes. It sounds better than losers. Cool. Durlock is staring right at me. God, he has his, Durlock is staring right at me. God, he has eyes and a smile. I style a pose, letting him be my camera. He says, Susan, it really was your idea. Oh, that? I don't know what he's talking about. That day in the library, when you were talking about being a real ENI or a celeb ENI, I sit up straight and shake my hair loose. He rewards me with a little smile, seeing that now we're in this together. It's amazing and wonderful how much of a lie that boy can pack into so few words. We did talk about it, and it is something I think about a lot, but it wasn't in the library. We had cut class and sneaked off for sex in his room. Durlock looks around the room, being gorgeous, styling, charisma, and leadership till it drips off that perfect cleft chin. Every year, some loser bastard who's been sweating some art of or sport for decades just as a hobby with no success gets recognition somehow and goes straight from Miney to Eni. He looks right at Mershuk. Say, people start reading her poetry. Yeah, then Effie. Or he makes a major astronomical discovery. That's one road to being an Eni. That doesn't involve passing the stupid potty val exam. That all the advanced training and qualifying as a talent Eni. Making it into enough popular meads, and you're a celeb Eni. No boring work except for doing your art required. Right? Hey, most of us aren't stupid, Stack focuses on FB. We all know that. Durlock rides right over him. But teaching yourself to do a great art or a great science is even harder than passing the potty valves to qualify for training. There's a better way to get Eni. Now I'm listening. Durlock isn't just any guy named Durlock. Like so many guys are because the main guy on Always Sexy Vampires or a couple generations ago was named Durlock. He's Durlock Slabolus, son of Sir Penn Slabolus, the lawyer who pioneered the overriding media interest defense, which is one of a half a dozen reasons why Celeb Eni is the only kind of Eni to be. His father could buy excellent shop out of his petty cash and make them declare Durlock the most popular and god for a month. Durlock winks at me. I puddle and nod, as if he's conducting me with his baton. The room is silent. We know something big is coming. He explains. You have to start from being famous. Then whatever you do, people will want to see it. And that means you're an Eni. It's the way the rules work. Remember last year when Reynold Wells took a power saw and cut up his girlfriend? Till then, he was like an alien other mining songwriters. Ultra dark, ultra grim, ultra predictable, ultra just a hobby. But after he dropped the pieces of her body off of a balcony, people got interested in his songs. He became an Eni months before he was convicted. He pauses to let the thought sink in. Well, that's the way you do it. Us Moes only need to become famous for something, kick our recognition indexes up, and then people would want whatever we did afterwards. Images or poetry or finger painting or astronomy, FB says. I'm going to be the most famous astronomer ever. Herschel was so famous after he found Uranus that I bet what's his name found Uranus and used it too. Stack says in his "you be scared now" tone. The trick is, Durlock says, it's hard to get famous just for being an astronomer, but people will want to hear about your astronomy if you're famous. If you have too much style and class to crawl around being a goody-goody, maximizing your opportunities, always networking, and personally developing and studying all the time for the potty valves like pathetic scared little talenty kids here at the school, then the way to get to Eni is to get famous. Then if you want to be a scientist, you're an Eni scientist. Scientists are usually happy being mineys. They do what they love and don't worry about being famous. I learned that when Fleta and I were sent around to visit dozens of scientists back when we were best friends, and I was a crazy science girl. Fleta and I had so much fun when we were 12, winning science competitions, fast track for elite science schools, all that shit. And those scientists just doing research because they loved it were probably the happiest people I've ever seen, except for Fleta. Now, since she has decided to be a happy moron forever. As for me, I grew boobs and an attitude and found out about boys and drugs. And I decided to get real about the way things work. Happy is nice. Famous is what counts. That whole year I was running around being crazy science girl with my best friend, I was only mentioned, not even splictered into a hook, just mentioned, exactly 4 times in Meads that year. Notes for the interested, number 2. Meads, the only art form that matters in 2029. The word mead, back form sometime after 2080 from the plural media, a mead is an arrangement of audio and visual tracks intended to be seen together. Television commercials, music videos, film scenes, and news segments would all be described in 2029 as meads. Very old, slow meads. Most people only watch meads on any available screen most of the time. A stream of meads coming from a single source is called a face, probably short for interface. A face for meads is what a URL is for web content. A channel is for television, a station is for radio, or a magazine is for articles. Most meads are made up of shots and image sampled from other meads. The really popular part of a 5-minute mead might be a few 1-second shots. Those little very popular shots are called hooks. When a creator pulls out of a mead to use in a new mead, he splicters the original mead. For example, when making his porn meads, Glister takes a dozen porn scenes, which are each a few minutes long, and extracts and separates splicters his favorite little 1 or 2 second bursts, the hooks. Then he puts the hooks together into a mead of his own, which run through dozens of hooks at a very high speed. All over the world, hundreds of millions of hobbyists and a few thousand professionals split their meads into hooks and assemble new meads out of the hooks. Then they upload their new meads to the net. The overall system tracks every frame and sound back to its origin, counting every viewing of every one, so the more people who watch me that contains hooks that contain you, the more popular you are. A very small number of meads account for almost all the hooks, just as only a small fraction of songs account for almost all the airplay, or 1% of actors make 95% of the money in Hollywood. Theoretically, everyone is paid for appearance in a hook on every screen, but the payments are tiny, and anyway they are deducted from your social minimum. So your social minimum paycheck is the same every week regardless of how popular you are, up to the magic tipping point that Susan, Durlock, and their friends are dreaming about. If two or more out of every 10,000 hooks that are splictered within 1 month by everyone worldwide contain you, you are so popular that you are declared a celebrity and automatically upgrade to the prefix. You are famous enough to be receive an ENI stipend, and your hook fees are paid on top of that, not deducted. Being splictered into hooks is the only way to become either rich or famous under permapax parity. In the in the obsolete terminology of the 2010s, you are being paid to entertain everyone else by appearing in a very fast sampled clips pulled from your media appearance. Average length of a mead, less than 10 minutes. Average original content in a mead, less than 2%. Average length of a hook, about 1.5 seconds. Hooks are splictered out of any one mead, almost none usually. So, in my guise as a crazy science girl, I was splictered into 4 hooks in 1 year. That's the same as not existing. The next year, just after I turned 13 and got my chick body, a whole 8-second mead of me was splictered red like was splictered like crazy. The original mead ran on EdTeach, which has the highest recognition source score of any pirate face. Within a day, every single frame had been splictered into 5,000 other means. That 8-second hook hit number 45 in the top 100 for the hot underage category. The 2-second hook where you could see both boobs bouncing and one of my nipples stayed between number 26 and number 8 for 64 hours and ran over 300 different faces. Unfortunately, it didn't last long enough to get me my EE. You have to be popular for at least a month, and you don't stay popular if your hook is a joke, which mine turned into. Whoever put it up on EdTeach clipped the original 8-second hook out of the Lunatic Club's face. One of those club faces that nothing but camera feed from the dance floor. The 8-second hook that got splictered so much showed me dancing holding a drink and kind of spilling it onto my silk dress for some cling on one boob. EdTeach synthesized voiceover Ed Teach's synthesized voiceover said, Susan Terravale, daughter of classic actor Robert Terravale, shows the value she learned at Restore the Family, rallies with her father. People thought this was funny. It ultra destroyed any serious hotness and turned the hook into just an excuse to embarrass Pop. He called me up and lectured me for a solid hour about how this was beneath me. My little titty show was unworthy. Like there's anything more unworthy than being stuck as a miney for life. When I came to Excellence Shop for a month after that, I stayed in the advanced science and math classes because, well, why not? But I am not crazy science girl anymore. Someday I'll be seriously splictered, hooks of me, get it splictered every year. Just nothing so far hits the levels I need. Till then, I'm a Mo, looking to be an Eni. Which is why, aside from being hot, Durlock is taking my breath away. He's so right. There's a way. First, be famous. Then you can be famous. Then you can be a famous whatever you want. Look, Durlock says. None of us had studied at all. We can't possibly pass the potty vows, but I have come up with a way that we can get famous. So it won't matter that we can't pass the potty vows. Durlock says, his perfect grin widening like a curtain coming up on a show. It won't matter that we don't know shit. His gaze on me is more intense than it was when he was pulling down my pants. Scary. People have left school because of things Durlock did. It would be assumed to have a boyfriend that scared me. If necessary, I can just dump Barry with no ceremony at all. Durlock explains, for 78 more days, till we flunk the potty vows and get expelled, we can just ask the resource officer for go anywhere, do anything as long as it's a learning experience permissions. Now, how do you suppose we can become famous with a learning experience permission? He is looking straight at me when he says softly, let me give you a big hint. Virgo is starting an Earth Pass right now. He lets them all digest that for a breath. Susan, he says, and my name sounds like his hand sliding up my thigh. Don't you have an aunt on Virgo? My Aunt Destiny. She's an evilist. Why is the evilest person? Why is she the evilest person? Fleeta asked. Being evil is bad. Everyone laughs at her, which makes her happy and makes me sick. It's not like all of them know either. They're just enjoying laughing at Fleeta, so I explain. Evalist, not Evilest. Aunt Destiny is an expert at Evas, which is why they call her but it's what they call operations outside of the ship. I'm not sure why they call it that. I think it used to be an abbreviation like scuba or laser, but an Eva is a spacewalk, and Destiny is a spacewalker. Durlock's smile makes everyone look at me differently. Then they ever have before, and that is ultra zoomed. His plan is to go up in a cap and visit Virgo during Earth Pass, duck out of the return cap, and stow away to Mars. Since Virgo is an Aldrin cycler, it can turn around or even change courses much more than the little precision it has to do in each cycle. Virgo will have to take us to Mars. To send us home, they have to wait for Leo, the last down cycler for this opposition, and that will give us almost 3 weeks on Mars. This is so stupid. I can't believe we're talking about it, Emerald says. But whatever. When we come out of hiding, they'll just charge our parents a big pile of money to cover the cost, then turn the ship around and bring us home. We'll never even get close to Mars. That's the beauty of it, Durlock says. They can't do that. Glisters is nodding enthusiastically. Durlock is right. That option is not available at any price. Don't be stupid, Emerald says. Nothing really costs anything at all anymore. With Permapax parity, the scarcity age is over. They tell us all the time they might charge a ridiculous amount of money, but money is just supposed to keep people from using too much resources for stupid, crappy reasons. It doesn't ration things the way it did. That's what they've said in every economics class I took. Turning a spaceship around is just one more thing you can buy no matter how expensive it is. That's what they say, which he sounds like they say it just to hurt her feelings. Why won't they just spend the money to turn the ship around and bring us back to Earth? They can't turn Virgo around, Glistered repeats. No matter how much money they spend, physics beats economics every time. Durlock gives him a little mock round of applause. Right on target. I checked this, but I want Glisters and Susan to recheck it for me. Virgo's engines are only big enough to do course corrections, and they only take on enough reaction mass at Earth for Delta V to put them close to Mars at the other end. I never heard of Delta V, Emerald says, as if that means it can't affect her. Notes for the interested, number 3. Aldrin cyclers the bus line to Mars, but the bus can't turn around. Earth goes around the sun in 1 year. Mars goes around the sun in 1.88 years. The result of this is that Earth passes Mars every 26 months. The point where one planet passes another in orbit is called an opposition, because at that point, from the viewpoint of the Earth, the sun is on one side of the Earth and Mars is exactly opposite, on the other side. At opposition, the distance between two planets is as small as it can be, so that's a good time to cross. Up and high refer to moving away from the source of that gravity, and down and low to move toward it. Within the solar system, the main source of gravity is the sun. So when spaceships travel inside the solar system, they go up, away from the sun, or down toward the sun. Mars is higher than the Earth, orbits farther from the sun. In 2029, these terms have mostly replaced the ones we use today, inner and outer, which tend to see the solar system as a territory with the sun as its capital, rather than the more accurate image of gravity field around the sun. Buzz Aldrin, the second man to land on the moon, developed the idea of putting a spaceship or station in a 26-month orbit around the sun, with the low side of the orbit at the same distance from the sun as the Earth. timing it so that it would hit the low point 4 months before an opposition. Thus, the ship would pass very close to Earth, and then its orbit would carry it up to Mars in about 4 months. A very fast trip. If the ship did not land on Mars, instead sending crew and cargo down to Mars in a smaller spacecraft called CAPS in this story, then the ship would continue on, and 26 months later, it would cross Earth's orbit again, 4 months before another Mars opposition. So once you have the ship up and running, it's a very fast, free ride from Earth to Mars every 26 months. To be in a 26-month orbit, a ship must spend as much time going away from the sun, the 13-month up leg, as it does coming down, the down leg. Because of the shape and the position of the orbits, even though obviously every cycler goes up and down, only the up legs or the down legs, not both, can be in the right position to give a fast 4 month ride between the planets. On Virgo, it's the up leg, so Virgo is an up cycler. There's also down cyclers like Leo, which are set up to pass Mars at the opposition on their down leg, and then Earth 4 months later. Down cyclers are a fast free ride back. No ship can be both an up and down cycler. If it has a leg in the right position at opposition, then its other leg will be 13 months away from opposition and not go near either planet. So the price of the fast free ride is that you also have to take a long ride that is not free at all for 22 months out of the 26. The cycler is just coming back to its starting point, and it's not good for anything. Out of its 26 months orbit, a cycler is only hauling stuff and people between planets for 4. If the 4 are when it's upbound, Earth to Mars, it's an upcycler. If they are when it's downbound, it's a downcycler. Because the timing is tied to opposition, upcyclers and downcyclers all pass Mars within a few weeks of each other. Those few months are an extremely busy time for Martian settlers as the caps bring in new immigrants and imports from the upcyclers and take people and goods to the downcyclers for return to Earth. If Earth and Mars came into opposition at the exact same time, at the exact same part of their orbits every time, you would never need any fuel at all. But in fact, the position where they come into opposition changes each time through the cycles, moving about 2 months forward on each orbit each time. So it's necessary to change the course a little bit every trip. A change in course in rocket science is called a delta V. Delta is the math symbol for change in, and V stands for velocity, which technically is a speed and a direction. 10 miles an hour is a speed, north is a direction, and 10 miles an hour going north is a velocity. To change velocity, a ship in space must use some kind of rocket. The material that goes out of the book of the rocket is called reaction mass. Aldrin proposed that for reaction mass, the ship could use ice mined from the moon. It took a huge amount of reaction mass to put 6 ships into Aldrin cycler orbits, but that was 30 years before the time of this story. Once the ships were in the correct orbits, since they were no longer needed, the gigantic engines, arrays, and fuel tanks, they melted them down and used them as material for other parts of the ship. The Aldrin cyclers were literally built on the fly. Now in 2029, or 2129, as they pass by the Earth and Moon, they take on only enough reaction mass to tweak the orbit with just enough delta V to stay close to Mars, much less delta V than it took to launch the ship in the first place. Of course, since each ship is carrying passengers and cargo for only 4 months and is a 26-month orbit, for 22 months it carries no cargo and no passengers as it runs through empty space. After passing Mars, an upcycler keeps rising away from the sun for 9 months and then takes 13 months to fall back to Earth. This will come up later. The dissatisfied duo keeps right on whining, and Glisters and Durlock keep right on explaining, and I seriously consider exploding. After a while, I can't resist trying to get it across myself. To change to an orbit that came directly back to Earth, they need 100 times or more their own mass in lunar ice. Emerald Styles an expression, like a cat trying to figure out what stinks. Well, Shiefnet, so what? I mean, that's my point, and you're not listening. But whatever. I don't see why they won't just buy more lunar ice. Durlock says, because they have nothing but vacuum ahead for the next 60 or 70 million kilometers. There will be no one there to sell it to them, with no way to deliver it, no matter how much anyone spends. That seems kind of unfair, Fleeta says. People should be able to buy whatever they want. Fleeta takes Fentrasol, the best therapy there is, but it doesn't fix the damage already done. It only slows down the brain's deterioration. Emerald is struck, temporarily dumb, by the thoughts that she might sound as if she's agreeing with Fleeta. She stops and actually seems to think a miracle right there. She stops and actually seems to think a miracle right there. Not enough ice to turn around with, Emerald says. Right? And nowhere to buy it, no matter how much they pay. Emerald seems very proud of having understood. Waichi adds, all right, now I've got it. Why didn't you just say so? Durlock bravely tries to work his way back to his plans. So, if we take one of the last caps up to Virgo, which is the last upcycler to pass Earth on this opposition, and stow away, and don't come out till we're out of cap range and Earth, they have no way to send us back. Virgo has to go to Mars, and they have to take us. And at Mars, all they can do is send us back on Leo, which is the last downcycler for this opposition. So we get back, then what? Lister asks. The foam house? It'd be fun to have you in the foam house with me, Stack says, leering at Glisters. I'd ultra make you my ultra bitch, Glissy. Durlock says, shut up, Stack. No one will do any time. I don't see why not, Emerald says. When your plan involves like an Enilian anti-permapax parody felonies. Durlock grins. This is where I'm so glad I have the father I do. We'll have the most famous celeb law and overriding media interest lawyer in the solar system on our side that will eat this one up for an appetizer and then chew up the Martian Settlement Authority, the Space Patrol, the Permapax Parity Authority, and the whole UN for a main course. We probably won't do even 1 hour in the foam house. We'll tour Mars like royalty. He hammers his points till you think it would break. Just think about the publicity. Oh, God. The publicity. Children of celebrities, stowaways to Mars. He writes it in the air in about 150 point type. And once we're in a few million meads, whatever we do will sell. Glister's Born, Murashki's philosopher poems. That's what Murashki calls that shit that takes her 3 days to write one lousy screen of. And half that screen is white space. The good half. I guess philosopho poems is better marketing than drippy little insipidities from a dippy fat chickie who can't punctuate. Durlock rolls on. FB not only gets to be famous, but being on Virgo with access to external instruments, he'll even have time to work up a couple brilliant discoveries. And maybe, I think to myself, remembering one of Pop's biggest roles, the wizard will give him a brain. Oh, the wizard will give him a brain. Whatever any of us want to do, it will be famous because it was done by a famous stowaway to Mars. After all the eyes and attention from Durlock, what I want to do does not require going to Mars. A short walk down the hall would take care of it very nicely. What he's doing to me is basically what he's doing to all the Moes, offering everything we want deep inside in his cupped hands. But as nice and supported and cradled as that feels, he also has a long, sharp fingernail dug into our soft little dreams, and he's gently pulling. We can let him drag us along, or he'll pop our dreams like garden slugs. He ticks off points with one extended index finger, like he's smearing boogers on a mirror. Celeb family, massive media coverage, popularity, or popular story meetings with public need for the entertainment that adds up to all punishment suspended. Don't you people ever watch crime meets? Actually, we won't hurt anybody either, Glister says. Will we? There might be a tiny bit of property damage if we do it the way I think we will, Durlock says. But you're right, no harm to persons and minimal harm to property will help our case. It isn't necessary, though. That little isn't necessary, though, makes me shudder. I see Emerald and Waichi also notice. Durlock looks around the room. I guess maybe you all don't watch many crime meets. What do you think sentence suspended on grounds of overriding media interest means? Creepier and creepier, Penn Slabilis' famous case that established the principle was Munshi versus Slabilis, in which he successfully pleaded guilty to a rape charge, but received no punishment. Since then, he's helped half a dozen celebrities literally get away with murder, and he very nearly won the case for Xiang, the man who invented happy stuff. Maybe we aren't going to hurt anyone, but it wouldn't matter to Durlock if we were. Is media like lots of meads? Fleet asked. So that's like a lot of meads are interesting when people ride over things? Close enough, Durlock says with a warm smile. She glows like a beautiful saint at having gotten something right. I miss her so badly. Susan, Emerald says, this only works if you're willing to lie to your aunt. So do you really want to? I style a bold pout, just like my coach taught me. Well, Aunt Destiny loves me, and in her heart, she'll like that spunk and initiative in her niece. That was zoomed. Great speech. Likeable content, but styled all bratty sexy. Glister winks and flashes me a thumbs up. He recorded it because he always got a camera running someplace just in case one of us reveals a boob or styles a pose. That'll pop up in some me, and I could almost hug the giant-headed albino freak if we both wore pressure suits and I wiped mine down real good just after.